What's up, nerds? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Maddie if you're new here. I hope your day is going well. And today we're gonna do the mid-year check-in tag because it's June, so why not? And I also haven't been reading much recently, so I don't have anything relevant to post other than this. And I haven't been doing wrap-ups, so you guys really don't know what I've been reading, so I might as well share. So let's chat, let's hang out. The original creators and the questions of this tag will be in the description box below because I'm not a heathen and I know how tags are supposed to be treated in this community. That being said, let's chat. Starting strong, we have the best book of the year, which goes to The Adventures of Amina El-Sarafi. No one's surprised, I am absolutely sure. The one thing about this year that I pride myself that I've been doing very thoroughly is I'm reading a lot less than I used to. If you've been kind of hanging out, I've been in school for the first part of this year and I've also had health concerns, but I've been reading a lot less, and this book was definitely one of my all-time expected releases for this year. This is about a middle-aged ex-pirate who gets kind of pulled back into her old life, her old ways, because of a woman that wants to hire her, basically. And if you know my taste in reading, S.A. Chakraborty is probably one of my all-time favorite authors. Her City of Brass series, the Daevabad series, is just, it's written so fucking well, masterfully well. And this, once again, thoroughly impressed me. Highly recommend it if you like pirate stories, getting the gang back together stories. I know some people didn't like it because of that aspect, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. Just hands down, so good. So good. It's amazing. And I always have to do this. Worst book of the year goes to Haunting Adeline, I think, or The Sun in Its Shade, or whichever fucking one I read in that series. Both of those have videos on them, and you can find out in depth why I did not like those books. There you go. Moving on, we have the best sequel of the year so far, and that's going to Painted Thieves by Margaret Owen. I thoroughly enjoyed Little Thieves, I think last year or the year before. This book is the sequel, and I read this during Hardback Hoarder's 24-hour stream. It is light for a YA novel, but it definitely has this just really beautiful atmosphere of the world, and I just really enjoyed it. The first book in the series is about a woman who has disguised herself and stolen the identity of this like princess, so to speak, and it's a retelling of the Goose Girl fairy tale. If you're unaware, that's the main plot line. The maid steals the identity of a princess. Other than that, there is nothing similar about Little Thieves and the fairy tale. And this Painted Devils is actually, it just takes that story and does so much with it, and I love that. I will say though, I was really only reading this for the relationship that's been building, and I will probably have to reread this particular installment because when I try and read things in 24 hours, I don't necessarily get as much impact out of them if I'm not focused on them solely. And when I was hanging out in that stream, I was definitively not focused on this. I was having a great time. So if you haven't hung out on one of those streams, I highly recommend them. They're so much fun. And since it's relevant because we were just talking about a YA sequel, I thought about adding in the worst sequel that I've read so far in 2023, and that goes to Chain of Thorns. I was gonna call this Chain of Iron. I am a Shadowhunter girly. I have been one for decades at this point. Not decades, but like at least a decade. Yeah, it's almost 15 years at least. Whatever, I'm not worried about how old I am reading these books, but this particular one, look how long that is. That is so long. Nothing fucking happens in this. Like, I'm not wearing my glasses. Why am I not wearing my glasses? Oh my god, excuse me, I'll be right back. Oh god, ow, my butt. Oh my god, I can like see you. All right, that's so much better. Where was I? Okay, yeah, so Chain of Thorns. This book introduced a love triangle that was not necessary, which is really annoying because Cassandra Clare's love triangles are usually fine. So I don't know what happened here. This was really bad. And usually speaking, I don't hate her endings, but her next series is gonna have to really be impressive to a lot of people because I'm not gonna be just willy-nilly buying them if they suck. Even though I think she has an adult book coming out, or at least she has something not Shadowhunters coming out this year, other than this, so hopefully it's good. I don't know, we'll see. I am Not impressed, as you can obviously tell. The next question is favorite rereads. I actually haven't finished a reread yet, but I did start Legends and Lattes last night just because I wasn't feeling great. And this is one of my favorite books from last year. Time is irrelevant at this point. I've done so many of this particular video. But this is a very, very cute story about a orc woman who opens a coffee shop and hires a succubus to be her assistant and all of the little cozy little things that happen. And a lot of people kind of view this as cozy fantasy, and I do as well, but I also really like that even though this has low stakes, there are still stakes. Like, it is very much a story where things matter and things happen. It's just that those things are, how are we going to make sure that their biscuits sell out during the day? You know, it's really cute. And I always have to bring it up anytime I'm talking about stuff like that. Next question is the genre you've been loving or reading the most. And this year I have been introduced to extreme horror. And I never thought I was gonna be someone who was super into that, but I've recently followed Meek, and his channel is absolutely fantastic. And I also got to read his debut extreme horror book called Them, and I was gifted the advanced copy, and oh my god, if you are an extreme horror fan, fucking get this now. It's so good. I will say it is extreme horror, and most people I know probably won't like that. There were a few times where I was like trying to read the book with my eyes closed, which didn't really work. I'll just put my Goodreads review of this book up because I think it's pretty funny and extremely correct. But yeah, so I will link his channel down below, and of course definitely check out that work. I highly recommend it, and if you're an extreme horror fan, let me know. It's definitely been an interesting ride getting into that. I think another one that I read was Necrosis. I found this because of TikTok, and holy fuck. It's not like I've been reading a lot of it. It's just been like a very specific mood that I've been in, that I've wanted to look for this particular type of content. Like the Killing Stalking crowd, if you know, you know. But other than that, if you guys are interested in that, please let me know. I would love to like buddy read those works with people because some of it is a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna move on because otherwise I'm gonna be talking about really gross shit really quickly. Next question is new releases you haven't gotten to yet. I have started Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This book is already making me extremely angry, not because I don't agree with everything that's happening, but just because the subject matter itself is very difficult. If you're unaware, this is about a like struggling writer in publishing who basically steals a woman of color's masterpiece work and pretends that it's her own. And it's hard to read. I didn't think it would be hard to read, but once again, Rebecca is just so fucking talented. Every single book she publishes, I'm just like blown away, just every time. And like this one is nothing like the Poppy War. It's nothing like Babel. It's very much in our world, and it's still giving me this just sense of just absolute fury, just absolute fury at how this woman took something that wasn't hers and just decided it was fine. It was just fine. And yeah, so I'm only like maybe less than 100 pages into that, but I'm very excited to read more. The next book that I have not purchased yet, but I will be getting a copy soon, is The Battle Drum by Sarah Al-Arafi. This is the sequel to The Final Strife, which is behind me, as you probably know if you've been around the channel, was actually my favorite book of last year. Or did I read that this year? Goodness gracious, I'm bad at this. Final Strife is one of my favorite books. The sequel just came out. I'm very excited to get a hold of it. Let's keep going. Most anticipated release of this year. The most anticipated release that I have for next year is going to be Books and Bone Dust. This is the prequel to Legends and Lattes, as I've already mentioned. I'm excited. I am so excited for this book. I want to buy several copies, and I'm so excited, especially after reading part of it last night. And I'm planning on finishing the reread tonight of Legends and Lattes. I cannot recommend this series enough. I'm so excited for it. Now to a little bit of a more controversial opinion of mine. We have the biggest disappointment, and that goes to... I know! Here's the thing. Just calm down. I know a lot of people actually didn't like this. And I feel like when I read Ninth House, I loved it. And a lot of people were like a little bit on the fence. But then I read Hellbent, and like, I felt like I was on autopilot reading this book, and Bardugo is one of my all-time favorite authors, and like, I just couldn't care about any of these characters, which is weird because I cared about them in the last book, but then as I was reading this book, I realized I didn't necessarily bond with these characters, and it just felt weird. If you don't know what this series is, Ninth House is about a woman who gets a full ride to Yale to be part of their secret society police force, sort of. And this one is the sequel to that. And there is my favorite character, kind of benched, so to speak. And I didn't really find that all that fun. I don't know. It's just me. I think I only rated this like 2.5, 3 stars. It wasn't necessarily like the worst book that I've read, but it was definitively a letdown for me. Like, absolutely. I just had an expectation of what was going to happen, and that just didn't happen, which is okay. But I was definitively expecting more, which, you know, considering this is one of my favorite authors, I don't think that's a hard thing to ask for, you know? Basically, you know, if you've got hot demon dick. I'm not explaining that, moving on. So this is just a random little rant. The arcs, I have the arc of Threads of Power, and this cover change pisses me off. Like, this would probably be my anticipated read of the year, but like, I am so angry. I have the arc and I don't want to fucking read it because of this cover. I don't even know why. It just doesn't feel like darker shades. Like, makes me mad. And the biggest surprise of the year, which I know is probably going to be surprising to other people, is Bunny by Mona Awad. I attempted to read this, I think the year it came out, couldn't get into it, and then just bailed. And then of course it's become BookTube's darling. And so I finally got around to reading it, and I fucking loved it. Like, it was just absolutely so good. It was masterfully written, so fucked up in a lot of different ways, and it's become one of my favorite books in like this experimental horror genre. And it also helped with like kind of re-identifying with the feminine, and I thoroughly enjoyed how creepy and weird it got. I highly recommend it. Why is something making a noise? If you want more information about how I liked Bunny, I have a vlog all about it. All right, and then the next question, I never usually have an answer for this, but it's newest favorite character. And I usually wouldn't answer this because I just don't usually bond with individual characters that well. But I do want to make a honorary mention for a character in a monster smut I read in January called Company of Fiends. This character is a magical creature that can split itself into two beings, one that can cause absolute excruciating pain by touch, and the other that can cause exhilarating pleasure. And you can imagine that, considering that this is a monster smut book, that that was an interesting concept to me. I won't give you really any more details. If you are aware of what monster smut is, you probably understand what happens with that character. Yeah, it was a cool character. I'm so good at words, guys. And another question that I don't particularly like answering is books that made you cry. Once again, I don't really like crying when I read books, but I read Ceremony by Leslie Marmon Silko for class, and this book is devastating. From what I can tell, one of the first Native American novels that revolutionized publishing. It follows a Native American man after he comes back from the war, and it's his story trying to become healed from the PTSD and the trauma that he experienced. And it is an incredible tough read. It is incredibly graphic. I cried at multiple points. The writing style and the like extrapolation of the Native American stories that were put into this novel was just brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant, written brilliantly. And I don't typically enjoy things that I read for class, which is why I probably don't want to go back to school. But like, it was so well done. I highly recommend it. It is not a typical thing that I reach for. Blew my fucking mind. And the last question that we will end on is a book that made you happy, and that is going to be A Fire Endless by Rebecca Ross. This duology is one of my absolute favorites. It's a very whimsical, beautiful story that kind of follows more a typical fae that I particularly enjoy. Not throwing shade at, like, you know, if you enjoy fae that's been kind of more popular recently, but this is about an island that has basically been war-torn for a very long time. One side has magic, but it causes the user to slowly die, whereas the other side has the access to magic, but has no other resources. So they're always attacking the side that our main characters are from. And the story and the characters and the beautiful relationships that they build within this incredibly beautiful dynamic story about these Welsh-inspired, like, I think, fairy tales, it's just absolutely stunning. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I really also like that this was a duology. It didn't need to go on longer. The story was wrapped up beautifully. Highly recommend. It made me very, very happy. All right, guys, that was my mid-year check-in. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please leave down below your favorite books, your least favorite books, all of that good stuff. I'm gonna go now, guys. Like, subscribe, all the good stuff. Bye! So long. I need to eat some food. I'm hungry. All right, and I always, excuse me. And the next, this is about a bard who returns to his home after having a extended time away, and he finds out that there are problems happening on the island that he returns to his home. Well, I'm bad at this.